Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to discuss third chapter of fourth model, that is about intrusion prevention and detection. In this chapter, we are going to discuss the introduction to the prevention and detection and how prevention and detection both of these are different and the types of uh, intrusion detection systems. We'll see an intrusion is the act of gaining an unauthorized access to a system so as to cause loss or harm. So examples of intrusion include the following: unauthorized login to a system by illegally acquiring a password. Through, for example, a password guessing attack such as dictionary attack. Next one, worm infections that use the system as a launch pad to spread and infect other machines. Next one, injection of spyware that passively monitors the activities of the user and relays this information back to the attacker over the internet. Spyware is the hidden program that is running at the background of the user system to collect the user's activity information. Later that can be used or supplied to an attacker that he can bring a damage to the system. So that is what the problem. And next, flooding the host with spurious connection requests that attempt to exhaust the target's resources such as processing power, maybe a memory or a communication bandwidth. So this kind of attack can able to uh, flood the host with a connection request made by an attacker to attempt the exhaust of the target resources such as this memory, or can makes less availability of the communication bandwidth, etc. So now there are two ways of handling these attempted intrusions, are known as intrusion prevention and detection. Uh, Here, before going to discuss the prevention, how it is different from the detection, let us take an analogy with a human disease that might help clarify both of these approaches. Uh, Here, a particular person may be suffering with diabetes and high blood pressure are known to be linked to lifestyle choices. Preventive treatment for these uh, symptoms or the diabetes and high blood pressure includes the regular exercise, a stress-free life, and a diet rich in fruits and vegetables. However, an individual who strictly follows these three practices cannot be guaranteed freedom from these medical problems. We know that regular health checkups, especially for the person beyond the 50 years and more than that, can help prolong life. In the current context, periodic monitoring of blood sugar levels and blood pressure are strongly recommended so that timely action can be taken if there is a deviation from the normal life. The regular health checkups are analogous to that of an intrusion detection, while the positive lifestyle choices are analogous to an intrusion prevention. So let us, having this analogy in mind, will now see how the prevention and detection are different in terms of technical coverage. Intrusion prevention that anticipates various kinds of attacks and takes steps to forestall their occurrence. Uh, Take the case of software vulnerabilities discussed in the first model. Uh, Here, uh, on the one hand, a programmer should adopt practices that help reduce or eliminate the software vulnerabilities. The use of safe string manipulation functions used in C or C++ and the use of parameterized structured query language queries are some of the practices recommended to protect against buffer overflow and SQL injection attacks, respectively. Likewise, sanitizing user input from HTML forms is one preventive measure taken against cross-site scripting attacks. So sanitizing means here you have to remove the user inputs from an HTML forms. These are all coming under the preventive measures taken against the cross-site scripting attack, etc. Another set of preventive measures may be taken by the computing system, such as a hardware or a compiler or even from an operating system, to provide a second line of defense. They will bring a security against the attacks. Here again, the buffer overflow vulnerability is a prime example. Uh, this is Many attacks can be prevented by properly configuring the firewalls and timely application of the software patches, etc. And even the training should be imparted to system administrator on this related attacks. That is how we can prevent the attacks. Here, the user should be trained to adhere to sound security practices such as the password protection, and he must be educated on the variety of the social engineering attacks. One more aspects of intrusion prevention is deterrence. Means hacking, whether for fun or profit, is a criminal offense. The penalty for perpetrating cyber attacks can far outweigh the thrill of successful hacking or a financial gain. Means disseminating messages such as these can be serious deterrents to uh, hackers and for cyber criminals. Now, whereas in the detection, an intrusion detection system, in short IDS, performs the following three tasks. First one, first it monitors events of interest occurring in the target system or in the network. An event of interest may be a system call, that is a call made to an operating system. Two, for example, opening of a file containing a sensitive data. Another event of interest may be the attempted establishment of a TCP connection from a specific IP address machine to through a certain port. Second step is an IDS generates a large amount of data which is then analyzed and can be converted into a valuable information to be used by system administrator. Here the information uh, collected uh, can be used and may lead to conclusions such as the source address in the 90% of the packets received in the past or the last 5 minutes are never been seen before by the particular or specific IP addresses. And the third step is the third task is the IDS creates a database of interesting events. It raises an alert each time it observes any such event. For example, it might be programmed to raise an alert if more than 70% of the packets received within the last 10 minutes arrive from never seen before IP addresses. These are examples of a threshold and parameters set by a human. The threshold value is the maximum value that can be manually set by a human or a person. On the other hand, it would be highly desirable if the IDS means intrusion detection system were capable of learning what is normal behavior and detecting anomalous events when they occur and overcoming such an events. So here, while doing this, there are a number of key questions that is related to this detection system functioning while functioning this IDS and its deployment. Namely, what are the variables that the IDS should monitor? Next question: when should an alert be raised, and when should an alarm be Sounded. Next, where should the IDS can be placed? So like this, the questions are coming into our mind when we are thinking about the IDS functionality and about its deployment. Before attempting to answer these questions, now let us have a case study related to the password abuse. This is intended to illustrate the difference between the intrusion prevention and that of the detection. So here, uh, before going to have that case study, so here this diagram showing the task performed by the IDS. So there we need to consider first the monitoring of the system or a network variables. Then we must analyze the values or behavior of these variables If the value or behavior matches the attack pattern, then we have to raise an alert or alarm saying that the system is intrusion detected. If even at the first line of defense, if the value or behavior matches attack pattern, if it is false, we have to check its anomalous behavior, means any deviation from the regular functionality. If it is the case, then again we have to raise a alert or the alarm notification to the system or its administrator. So now we'll have one case study to illustrate about the difference between the prevention and the detection. To prevent unauthorized logins owing to compromised passwords, the following should be adhered to. Means one must should use the following things while using the passwords. The first one, a password should be at least 8 characters long, hard to guess, and include at least one non-alphanumeric character. Second one, a password should be changed at least twice in a at least once in 2 months. Third one, passwords should be stored securely, means they are not written anywhere on the sticker pads or walls, and should not be communicated to friends or relatives or co-workers or any colleagues in an organization. Fourth one, after 3 consecutive unsuccessful attempts to a specific account, the system should be designed to disable all further login attempts for the next 20 minutes. And this may be different for the different applications. Now here, among these four rules in the password usage context, rules 1 and 2 should be observed by the user, though they can and must be enforced by the system, whereas rule 3 involves the user alone, while rule 4 that involves the system alone. These rules are all measured intended to prevent intrusion. As a further preventive measure, a high security organization may mandate two-factor authentication, such as use of the passwords in conjunction with the biometrics. As we discussed in the previous model, we may have the two or more factor authentication by introducing some biometric approaches along with the password usage. In addition to prevention, an detection system may also be deployed to monitor suspicious logins. For example, consider an employee who for 5 years has never logged in outside of office hours, that is between 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. If now after 5 years the same user were to log in at 4 a.m., the IDS should raise an alert. You may be experienced if your even okay your email is having such a notification facility to its users. If you are logging for a particular session, means the email if you are entering into your email system with a newly found device after some time, then it may able to bring out the email notification. That is also a kind of an intrusion detection system. So that is the example. uh, Notifications or alert message or raising an alarm, these are the parts of a intrusion detection system. So we'll see uh, here among these four, the two mechanisms which are reactive. Okay, there are the mechanisms which can be either reactive or they can be uh, proactive or preventive. Reactive means they monitor the system for anomalous activity and trigger an alert when suspicious activity is observed, whereas the password protection approach are said to be a preventive mechanism and are designed to minimize the possibility of a break-in. So this is what the difference between the detection and the prevention. Now let us see the types of intrusion detection system. A real-world intrusion detection system monitors and mines hundreds of variables of for interesting patterns. The following table shows a sample of variables together with a condition that may trigger an alert. Some of the variables are mere bit patterns in the packet header or in the packet payload. The other variables are counts of a certain occurrence within a time interval. So we'll see at least a few parameters or the variables which are monitored, and the events of interest to an IDS, and then the possible attack over those. So here the number of accesses to a specific file means the event of interest here is tenfold increase over a normal or norm, and possible attack is denial of service attack or a flash event. And next, login frequency to a particular account, and events of interest is to know whether unusually high, and here attempted break-in. And next one, number of distinct source IP addresses of an arriving packets, and whether it is high or low. Means again events of interest is to understand it is very high or not. Then worm attack, it is the one kind of the malware that can able to bring the infection from one machine to the other machine. Worm attack. Next, ratio of address resolution protocol request packets to address resolution protocol response packet. If it is greater than, if it is more greater than 1, then network scan to identify local active host. Then similarly, ratio of the TCP synchronization packets to a ratio TCP finished packets, if it is greater than 1, then there is expected attack is DOS. Next, percentage of hop open TCP connection. There will be a event of interest is to know the sudden surge is happened or not. Then again there is a DOS or distribution or distributed DOS attack. TCP header flags invalid combination, either OS fingerprinting and port scan are the possible attacks. And TCP connection establishment, if we are understanding with reference to this TCP connection establishment unused destination port, then attempt to find which services are open. Then payload of incoming packet, specific bit sequence present, specific worm attack, OS calls, particular sequence of calls are the events of interest, and maybe a expected possible attack is caused by an virus, which is again a computer program which is able to bring infection from one file onto the other file within a system, and it will bring the malicious code onto the user's machine. That is what we understood by the virus in the previous lecture. So now the main thing is to identify the events of interest. So here that is what the table showing samples of variables together along with the condition that may trigger an alert. The alert can be raised based on these events of interest with their value, and some of the variables are bit patterns. They can be represented in the pattern manner, or uh, other variables they will be dependent on the counts of a certain occurrence, and that are with respective to the time intervals. So now we'll consider the classification of the intrusion detection system based on their functionality in terms of two uh, things: anomaly based IDS versus signature based IDS, and host based IDS versus network based IDS. So let us discuss the difference. We'll see the one by one all these techniques. The first one, anomaly based intrusion detection, involves making a determination whether the behavior of the system is statistically significant departure from normal. The IDS will have to learn over time what constitute normal activity or usage and behavior. Moreover, the definition of what is normal may vary as a function of time of day or a day of a week. What is normal may also vary from one host to another host. Whereas, in case of signature-based intrusion detection, which is also called a misuse detection, works by identifying specific patterns of events or behavior that accompany an attack. Means a signature-based IDS maintains a database of known signatures. It attempts to obtain a match between the currently observed behavior of the system and an entry in the database. A real-world signature-based IDS will have thousands of attack signatures against which to compare. An example of an attack signature is a specific byte sequence in a worm payload. Here the malicious program, which is going to be represented in a specific byte sequence manner, that will be saved with the database. Now that will be compared against the found signature. If there is a match, we are considering there will be an intrusion occurred. So now to an anomaly based IDS, it is the absence of normal behavior that presages an attack, while to an signature based IDS, it is the presence of a specific signature that that raises an alert. Detecting a 0-day worm is a challenge. On the other hand, it is possible that the spread of the worm has caused much network traffic congestion and greatly increased CPU utilization on infected machines. In that case, it is more likely that an anomaly based intrusion detection system will detect the attack, but the signature based IDS is unable to pinpoint the exact cause of the anomaly. So these are the differences between the anomaly based and signature based IDS. Now let us have the another category, uh, network based versus host based IDS. An IDS that captures information about packets flowing through the network is referred to as the network based IDS. For reasons of performance, it is common to have standalone appliances that perform network based intrusion detection. These typically run only the IDS and are hence not vulnerable to the various worm and virus attacks. They may be deployed at multiple points in a large organization too, whereas a host-based IDS is typically implemented in software and resides on top of the host's operating system. Its main job is to monitor the internal behavior of the host, such as the sequence of system calls made. Uh, Next, the files accessed, the number of files accessed, etc. For this purpose, it makes use of system logs or application logs and operating system audit trails to identify events related to an intrusion. Here, operating system logs, for example, keeping track of when the users logging in, the number of unsuccessful login attempts, maybe the number of commands executed, network connections made, etc. Whereas the application logs that keeps track of which are all the files have been opened or which registry keys have been accessed during the run of an application. They may also monitor what system calls were made and in what order. Keeping track of modified files and file attributes can play a key role in host-based intrusion detection system. For example, a change in the contents of a core system library should arouse suspicious since these are rarely modified, if ever. File system integrity checkers, for example, computes a cryptographic hash on the contents of each file. They detect file changes by comparing the computed hash of a file to its stored hash. There are two desirable features of an intrusion detection system are speed and accuracy. Speed is especially important in fast spreading the internet worms. For example, uh, early worm detection and an early response mechanism such as automated system shutdown can help reduce the number of infected machines. The idea should be able to detect every instance of an intrusion. An undetected intrusion is referred to as false negative. Uh, if the intrusion is undetected, it is said to be a problem called false negative. Given the importance of not missing out an intrusion, an IDS may go overboard and react to even innocuous events. We say that an IDS that generates a false positive if it raises an alarm even though there is no intrusion currently occurring or about to occur. The two aspects of intrusion detection system accuracy are sensitivity and selectivity. Uh, High sensitivity implies a low false negative rate, while a high selectivity implies a low false positive rate. So these are the things about the intrusion detection system with its categories.
Thank you.